Hey guys, Chris here from Mixdown Online. Now today I have a special guest for you. His name, Björgvin Benediktsson. Now Björgvin is a musician, a music producer, an engineer, a mixer, and a blogger. Like, he's been around for quite a while. Björgvin wrote tons of articles out of his website audioissues.com, where he shares some music production, mixing and recording tips for the home studio. Now I'm gonna have a chat with Björgvin, and at the same time he's gonna share with us two of his favorite tips out of his new course, the DRUM MIX Toolkit. So Björgvin, how are you, my friend? Doing good?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, thanks, man. So I was actually telling the my subscribers about what you did in the past years, and just a quick, brief description of who you are. So just tell me more about yourself and stuff you do in the studio and audio issues, your blog, and everything.
Sure. Well, my name is Björgvin Benediktsson. I run Audio Issues. Overall, my theme is I help home studio musicians improve their music and make a bigger impact with their productions by helping them produce themselves, or helping them learn how to record and mix and produce themselves. Cool. I do that through easy and practical to use tips in the form of, whether that's blog posts or ebooks or video tutorials or courses, everything from all the 900 to 1,000 blog posts I have on the Audio Issues website, that's all free, to some of my premium courses and ebooks, I have some ebooks on Amazon, I have some ebooks through my website as well. So Audio Issues has been going on for about 7 years or so. That's my sort of informational venture, where I help and teach other people and help them improve their own productions. But I also record local bands here in Tucson. I have a studio called Icelandic Embassy Studios. I run with a partner of mine here, and we record, local bands. We have sort of an intimate, cool, comfortable experience here. Do a lot of projects in sort of rock and folk and metal, which is sort of varied, but we have the capability to do all that. So, yeah.
So that keeps you busy.
Yes, it keeps me very busy.
That's awesome. So, like the home studio concept is becoming, more and more popular these days. More than it was 10 years ago. I guess more than when you started blogging.
Yes, very true.
So, where do you think it's going from this point on, anyways?
I think it's going to the point where people are going to be able to do a lot of really, really good sounding records in their home studio, and they already have been doing that for years.
Yeah.
It's just that it'll be more the consumption of the audio production, sort of the experience, will be more personal instead of going, instead of physical. So yeah. Instead of going to a big studio and getting the value out of a big studio, you rather hire a good producer or a good engineer to help you out, because they will be able to use your home studio or their home studio to really get the sounds that you want with a limited budget, because you don't need to pay for that extravagant facility. Because which is if you want a huge drum sound and a choir and a string section, then you're going to need a big space. But that's not what the majority of people really need when they're producing their music. So I think the transaction, it's like the Uber and the Airbnbs of the world. It's like called the sharing economy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
So this, I think, is more. It's the sharing economy, except that you're sharing your skills, not your facility, because you don't really have a big facility anymore, or very few people do.
No, you're right about that. That was a major shift.
Yeah.
And do you do a lot of work remotely? Like any work online and stuff?
I do on occasion. I don't do an awful lot of remote work. I'm working with a few bands in town, and then I do the occasional mix, you know, online.
So most of your studio work is done locally, basically.
Yes, yeah. But the post-production stuff, a lot of the I offer. So online mixing, I offer as a package of
Yeah.
not only giving you a mix that you can use to for your band, but I also offer you the ability for me to teach you how I did it. So I'll mix the song until you like it and you're happy with it, and then I take you into the session and I show you exactly what I did so that you can reproduce that.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And yeah, so I can actually see that in your blogs at the same time, the way you have the capacity of showing people, to produce themselves and, giving them tips on the mixing side, recording side and stuff pretty easily. It's pretty cool. And you do it very well. And I just,
thank you.
Yeah. And I think the way you write is very simple at the same time. So anybody can actually get something out of it. But at the same time, it's very good content. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. So
yeah, my whole mission has always been making sure that it's, I give you easy to use, practical tips that you can use right away.
Exactly.
I've never been a big fan of jargon, and I mean, I like using jargon as in slang, like you can't really talk about mixing or audio production without using the inherent jargon, but there's no need to overcomplicate things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and of course there is a time and place to actually dig down and really get an education in some things. And if you really want to learn about acoustic coefficients and like density of materials and how they absorb, the frequencies around you when you're treating your room and all that, that's something that you can definitely find and you definitely should learn. But sometimes it's easier just to tell people like, hey, you need to you need to get, acoustic treatment that is, sort of this thick so that it takes care of most of the bass. Put it in these strategic positions, by the monitors, by the earlier reflections, up above you and all that, so that's basically like the 20% of the stuff that you need to know in order to get the 80% of the results.
That's good. That's cool. And do you have like what would be your advice to someone who's starting out into the recording and mixing world?
Read as much as you can, educate yourself as much as you can, and then just practice. Like, I still practice. I literally just finished practicing a song earlier today. I spent 2 hours just mixing a song for fun because if you don't keep up the practice, you'll sort of lose your skills, or you lose your sort of, I don't know, quick ways of mixing. When you have all these sorts of tips in your head, and you're constantly using, this tip or that tip, then and if you don't go back to those and try new things out all the time, then you end up losing them, and you go back to the fundamentals. But it's not a lot of fun to just do the fundamentals all the time.
No, you're right.
You gotta have some fun with effects and compression and techniques and that.
Exactly. There's
so
a lot
read
of
and practice. Yeah, that's basically it. Get a good solid fundamentals. It's sort of like jazz. You have to know the basics inside and out, so you know exactly when you can break them.
Yeah, exactly. That's nice. And now you apart from audio issues, your blog, you have like a second blog going on that you started not too long ago, I think.
Yeah, that's sort of just my my personal portfolio blog where I write more about sort of productivity, entrepreneurship, networking, sort of exercise and being healthy, sort of life hacks or lifestyle design, I guess is like the fancy way of talking about it. I write a newsletter called 10 Weekly, and I write a lot of stuff on Medium too. And it's all just at bbenediktsson.com.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to leave all the links below. This website, you've shown me that a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of good content on that website. I really like that blog of yours.
Thank you very much.
And
yeah, it's like sort of an all-inclusive. I've been writing about audio for like 8 years, and like for like almost probably over if I count all the articles that I've done, both on my site and the other sites that I've written for in the past, like I've written over 1,000 articles on audio production.
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
Yeah, which is kind of a lot. But there's only so much you can say. So now I'm sort of wanting. I have having an itch to write about things that are similar. Just like life lessons and practical tips and tricks, like like I do with audio, but more in a general sense for a broader, wider audience.
That's good. That's good stuff. And you have books on Amazon because you're a writer, you're an author at the same time.
Yep.
So
yeah, I have 2 books on Amazon now, and I'll probably release a 3rd one in the coming month.
Okay, that's cool. And now you have a new product that just came out. And this is
the DRUM MIX Toolkit.
Exactly. I wanted to focus on that a bit, because that's brand new, and again, it's you have like years of experience on mixing, all sorts of style of music and drums and stuff. So I think, I think it's worth it to just dive in a bit into the DRUM MIX Toolkit.
Yeah. So it started off as an ebook. And I wrote it's about 20,000 plus words, which is like a good solid ebook. And then I sent it to some beta readers, and a reader came back, and he liked the book, but he wanted some examples, audio examples, or like, so when I'm talking about stuff, he wanted to be able to hear it.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a huge video component to that. So the product ended up becoming a lot bigger than originally intended, which was great. But now it has, I think it has 12 complementary videos that sort of go in depth. Go in depth on, and so all the topics that I've talked about in the ebook. Then there's video components that sort of like elaborate on certain techniques. How to find ringing, like the ringing resonances in your snare drum, how to use transient designers better, what are the go-to frequencies for like kick drums and snares and all that sort of stuff, compression tricks, the difference between being pretty drastic on the overhead EQ versus trying to not use filtering so much, or the difference between a multiband and a full band compressor when you're compressing your drums, for instance, all sorts of stuff like that.
Why that course? What made you decide to create a course on mixing drums?
I feel like mixing or recording drums in the home studio is sometimes one of the harder things to do.
It is.
And, if you have a small room, you'll inherently have a lot of problems. And you can try to track them as well as you can, and there's certainly a lot of recording tricks that you need, or recording methods, not necessarily tricks, but just general practices that you need to adhere to when you're recording in your home studio to get the best drum sound. That said, you are not always in control of the drum recordings that you get. So say you do online mixing, or say it was recorded by some friends of yours and you were asked to mix it, or say you just had to record then and there and you didn't have a lot of options to choose from. So you end up with a subpar home recorded drum sound. And if the drums sound sloppy or sound bad, don't sound punchy or sound thin or weak, everything else in the mix is going to suffer.
Yeah, big time.
So like, it doesn't matter if the vocal is like incredible and it has, all this crazy cool reverb and delay and it's really present in the mix. But if you have a flabby kick drum and a harsh sounding cymbals and a snare that's buried in the mix, it's still going to sound like shit.
Yeah, you're right. It does a lot. It does influence a lot the general sound of a mix. You know, even tweaking the tone. You know, you just add a bit of brightness to the entire drum bus will sound will change the entire mix sound. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Just the because you think about it, the drums are sort of the foundation of the mix, and if you build on a sloppy foundation, your house is gonna fall apart.
No, yeah, you're right, exactly.
And these are sort of my, I've been doing audio since 2006, so in one way or another, whether that's live sound, studio recording, broadcast engineering, recording my own band, recording other bands, all this sort of stuff, I've been sort of amassing different tips and techniques on how to make shitty sounding drums sound better. And this is basically just all of the tools that I know how to use to improve those drum sounds. And there's no one way to mix drums. Like that's why I try to give you all these tools to take what you have and make it into what you want it to be. I'm not giving you a one way to mix drums. There is no one way to mix drums. You might want a different sounding kick drum than I do.
Exactly. Yeah, because there's
this reverb. There's so many variations, and mixing is so subjective in general that it's just a compilation of tools and techniques that you can use whenever you need to solve a particular problem.
From your perspective, do you think it's easier to mix live drums or drum samples? Like we see a lot of people are using these samples these days.
Right. Well, it's certainly easier to mix sample drums that don't have any bleed, for instance.
Yeah, definitely.
But there is something that's gratifying about being able to make a live drum kit sound killer.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there is a bunch of hi-hat bleed in the snare, if you can make the overall drum kit sound awesome, then
exactly.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and there's something with bleed too. Sometimes it has its place. In the general drum sound.
That's dimension and depth.
Can you give us 2 tips that we can find in your course that you have right now?
Sure. So one of my favorite tricks is to use transient designers to add extra attack to. For instance, if you need a more beater out of the kick drum, you can add some more attack with the transient designer. Sometimes that works better than trying to add top end or a 3K boost, especially if you can hear a snare in there too, because if there's bleed from the snare, you're also boosting 3K in the snare. And another thing to use for transient designers, if you have sort of a room decay or a room tail in the drum sound itself. For instance, one of the videos I show you in the DRUM MIX Toolkit is where you can very audibly hear the sort of reverb from the kick drum, so that when the kick hits, you can hear this sort of echo where the kick is hitting the walls in the studio. Cool. But with the transient design, you can actually shape the release as to take that room sound away. You leave everything else in, and it's different than gating. It's not gating because gating sort of eats the drum sound.
Yeah.
But this is just shaping it so that the release dies away quicker.
Cool.
So another good trick that I use a lot is multiband compression instead of full band compression.
Yeah.
Especially on the drum bus, because it helps. It allows you to shape certain frequency areas of the drums and leave others alone, or compress them less. A good example is if you want to tighten up the low mids, if they're being too muddy or too sort of in your face in the low mids, and you want to tighten up the lows, you can kind of aggressively compress there while leaving the sort of high mids and the cymbal area alone. So you kind of get that high-end sheen from the cymbals while sort of tightening up the lows of the kick.
Yeah.
And then another sort of to tack on top of that is say you have a different compression settings on the lows and the low mids, and then in the highs. If you want to have sort of a fast attack on the cymbals, so that you're sort of taking a little bit away from those transients, so that they're not as harsh. Mm-hmm. But then you have a slow attack or a medium attack on the lows in the kick and in the kick area or in the body area, so that the body and the attack of the actual drums come through. So, tweaking your multiband compressor can really help shape your drums as well.
What's your favorite multiband compressor plugin? I
use the Waves C4 a lot.
Okay.
I have the multiband, the mastering multiband from Waves 2, and then I have the Logic's multipressor. I use the multipressor in mastering because it has my mastering preset on there, and which I stole from Ian Shepherd of Production Advice.
Yeah.
It usually works pretty well. But for mixing, the multiband compressor, the C4, has always worked really well for me. And okay. I don't have a lot, so like that one works fine, and I'm just gonna stick to it. I don't really need a bunch of multiband compressors.
Exactly.
But that's the only thing that that compressor you can only have it either electro or opto, which is fine. But if you're doing if you have other compressors, like the Logic stock compressor, the full band one, has a lot of different compression emulations. So sometimes I'll demo either the multiband or go through the full band compressors and see, because there's different characteristics whether you're using a VCA compressor or an FET compressor.
Yeah, definitely.
So demoing things out and making sure that you're actually picking the one that sounds the best and not the one that you're lazily picking.
No, exactly. And by using the same tools, from one mix to another, in my opinion, it helps a lot to sticking with one or two plugin of these kinds.
Yeah, I have a pretty good mix template going on, so it really helps me mix fast.
Yeah, because the tools you work with.
Right.
So I guess you're not. You don't tend to try like new plugins often. You stick with what you know the best, and.
Yeah, usually I do. I have sort of go-to plugins, but then sometimes I'll get a lot of times when I'm adding effects, I'll try something new.
Yeah.
Or if I'm not finding the right sound, I'll try a different plugin. One of the things that I actually experiment with the most is sort of the channel strip, or like the analog summing plugins, or things that are supposed to emulate desks.
Yeah.
So I have the Abbey Road TG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have the NLS summing and the API Vision channel strip. So all of those have slightly different characteristics. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times at the start of a mix, I usually have the NLS analog summer, or whatever it's called, on the top of the buses, whether that's the drum bus or the guitar bus or whatever.
Yeah.
But if I want to do something a little more, or experiment a little bit, I'll maybe throw the Abbey Road on there, or I'll try the Vision channel strip instead. So that's my biggest experimentation. A lot of times, I use the FabFilter Pro Q2 like 80% of the time.
It is an amazing EQ. I agree.
Yeah, it's the most versatile one. It's just so simple to use.
It is. I've been using it for the past few months, and because I usually stick to the same plugins, to my go-to plugins. But lately I've been switching to this EQ.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to EQ a lot with the Cambridge EQ from UAD, and the Gliss EQ from Voxengo, which is a dynamic EQ type of EQ. Yeah, but the FabFilter Pro Q is, in my opinion, one of the top EQ you can get.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, you know.
Yeah, it's funny because like I think their compressor is fine, but I rarely use it.
Same here.
Because I like the Logic compressors a lot, and if I want something with like real character, I'll use the UAD LA2As or the 1176s.
Yep.
And then on vocals, I use RVox almost exclusively. At least one instance of RVox. I compress in levels, so I compress in serial a lot.
Yep.
And in parallel actually. So, but I'll usually have an RVox on the vocals just for like writing or like leveling.
Exactly. That's cool.
Such a transparent compressor.
That's cool. But same here, I don't use the Pro C a lot. It's mainly UAD 1176 and the LA2A, of course. Yeah, they're classic plugins. Love the tone, and it's awesome. Yeah, talking about plugins, we can go on and on. You know that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just wanted to conclude by telling you guys to visit Björgvin's website at audioissues.com. Actually, audio-issues.com. I'm going to leave all the
either one works. I own both domains.
There you go. audioissues.com. Perfect. I'm going to leave all the links in the description anyways, about
the Drum Mix Toolkit is just drummixtoolkit.com too.
Perfect. That's awesome. So all the links are going to be in the description. And if you guys don't know Björgvin, go and read his blog. It's an awesome blog. You're going to learn a lot. And, on both sites, is audioissues.com and is benediktsson.com as well. So Björgvin, thanks again, man, for sharing your experience and, sharing your thoughts with us. And I'm going to see you soon. I'm actually going to see you soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. And maybe we'll have a follow-up conversation in Montreal. I'm coming up there in a month.
Yeah,
the 27th of May.
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna get together and maybe give you guys maybe a kind of a vlog type of thing. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, Björgvin, you take care, and I'll see you around.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again. All right, guys, so that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Björgvin Benediktsson. Now, don't forget to visit his website. I'm going to leave all of the links in the description below, and check out his new course, the DRUM MIX TOOLBOX. Now, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please do so, and don't forget to click on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.